before it goes up to the curb. Most of the time, being really good at this can be very hard. That will require 10 years of legislation at municipal levels all the way up to the federal government and stating you have to use thinner plastics on packaging and stuff. But source reduction is becoming a standard practice all across, from private to public entities. Disposal diversion ordinances. This is the man telling us what we can and can't do. These can backfire. We've seen it 100 times in the cities in North Carolina and all the states in the United States where people raise up and scream if you try to touch their garbage inappropriately. In Raleigh, we just had to pass a law that said you can't touch the recyclables if it's, it's stealing officially if you try to take someone's recyclables off the curb. So there's just, this has good and bad. State level performance standards are kind of the new hip thing. Massachusetts is passing a law trying to get everybody, if we go back to that graph, they're trying to get everybody mandating that municipalities do whatever it takes to get down to 500 pounds per person per year. 550, I'm sorry, by the year 2020. They have to hit 600 by 2015, 550. That's big sticks coming out. The municipalities will have to implement some pretty hefty things to do that quickly, but it gets gears rolling and it gets private industry. I'll talk about it a little bit, but that's when private industry starts showing up and helping fund materials recovery facilities and incinerators, because they know that they'll be able to make $1 if all of these things are done and our recycling stream goes crazy and goes in the right direction. Recycling effectively. This is 30 minutes on its own. The bottom line is, we all know collection, processing, and delivery. These things have to be regionally available and economically sustainable to really make it happen. So if New Hanover County or any surrounding county wants to do this appropriately, he just said, you've got to get the right players involved. You have to get everybody on the ground to be able to collect it efficiently and break even or make a penny. You've got to be able to process it, those MRFs, material recovery facility. There's got to be one that's not 200 miles away to be able to process single stream or dual stream or however that's being picked up. It's got to be able to take those recyclables and separate them, bale them, and now they're on the market. The delivery part of it can be the catch-all. That can be the tough one to get. But you've got to have private industries, and this region in particular has some of the biggest users of recyclable materials. They're creeping closer and closer. They've been down here for decades because of a good labor market. But you've got, and South Carolina has the lion's share of them, but North Carolina is getting more and more private entities that require a recycled commodity feedstock, crushed glass, or plastic bottles of a certain kind to be able to feed their bumper making facility, or their new glass, or whatever it is. It's required. They won't be able to be competitive or profitable if they don't have a recyclable feedstock. So you've got to get everybody together. That's the real key there. This is the big stick, and this is what we do a lot of. Pay as you throw. It is done at about 25% of the United States cities use this. It's basically getting residents to pay for every sort of pound or bag of garbage they throw away. And so this is what is sort of the new, it's been around for 25 years, but it's a municipal level thing. Some states are passing laws to mandate it in every municipality, but it's a relatively big stick. It's an easy one to implement, but you have to have buy-in across the board. About 25%. Downtown Wilmington has pay as you throw. Gastonia, North Carolina has pay as you throw. There's all kinds of different kinds. Wilmington actually everywhere. I think you have a cart. You can get a little cart or a big cart. That's pay as you throw. That has decreased the garbage and increased recycling. So there's all these things that need to go hand in hand. So pay as you throw is a big umbrella that simply means giving residents a choice to throw less away and to recycle more. All of these best practices have to be basically easy to understand for the residents, and it can't be economically unfeasible, if that's a word, for cities. So these things this is what we help cities with, is sort of go through the process of getting residents on board, getting the elected officials at the time on board, the staff on board, private haulers. They need to reap the benefits of a decreased waste stream and an increased recycling stream. So every player involved has to understand their part. If all of these best practices come into play and we extend the landfill, double, triple, you guys are blessed down here with, as he mentioned, lots of landfill years. You want to double that as much as you can, as often as you can. So certain parts of the country have been less happy with their landfill situation. Ohio and Michigan have laws at the state level to prevent their own residents from throwing so much garbage away, so they can import the rest of the country's garbage and make $1 on it. That sounds kind of crazy to me, but they're some of the best recyclers in the country, but that's to open up their landfills for North Carolina's, Virginia's, Maryland's, New Jersey's garbage, just to give you an idea of how far garbage goes and how far states will go to make $1 on it. Pay as you throw is kind of the biggest, fastest way to get to where most municipalities need to go to. So I'm not going to go into depth, but again, this is what we spend every day talking to, from the staff level people all the way up to municipal levels to governors, about what it means. So we're basically shifting the tax away from the resident in one way, but it is, these slides are basically showing how that works. We talk to old timers that, help cities convert and put an electric meter on your grandparents' house, or a water meter. We're doing the same thing. So when we do a pay-as-you-throw system, so that is still the most effective way of getting waste reduction. And if we move into a municipality and implement this bigger stick, there's a line of basically private entities or public willingness to support a MRF or something else. So they know that when this happens, you're going to get tons of benefit. The job creation one is always driving public officials. So these are just some typical pay-as-you-throw sort of numbers for household garbage. This slide turns a lot of heads because everybody gets, after 30 years of education, regulation, advertising, and media campaigns, we get to a pretty good place, and then a month or two after just implementing a simpler system, we get huge results. So these are just neat takeaways. Financial benefits. He wants more recycling, and everybody wants more recycling. The market's pretty good right now. It's going to change. It's going to go up and down, and it swings. And so you can't bank any heavy investments on the recycling market. But if we could reduce landfill usage and increase recycling, then everything starts paying for itself faster and faster and faster. So as all of these financial benefits, municipal bonds and bond ratings are tied to how well now, because garbage is such, as he mentioned, borrowing general fund dollars, tax dollars to pay for police, school, garbage, and they look at that across the board. And in some cities we move into, most of them up north of here, not too far north, they're just spending an inordinate amount of money on garbage collection and disposal, and it creeps down farther and farther. Is that a time? Is my time up?
No.
No. Okay. I can never tell. They say a minute a slide, talk fast. Environmental benefits, we can go into these forever, and sometimes we'll get really green elected officials, and they want us to take this slide, and they want to see those numbers of how many carbon, offset credits can we sell if we increase our recycling by 10%, 20%, 30%. So we have those numbers that can help them. Again, pay for systems. Again, pay-as-you-throw costs nothing to do. It's a policy change. But again, a lot on the pay-as-you-throw. It's deemed as like I mentioned. So 242,000 tons. So I don't know where. A couple years ago, probably. So if we were to come in and just mesh these best practices together, curbside recycling with all of these things go hand in hand. We're using well-known numbers that we collect and the government collects, just to apply it just for fun. It's tons of paper, tons of plastic, and tons of aluminum. I'm not just picking Hanover County, but we'll go into a tiny town of 800 people on Cape Cod, and we'll do, it'll be half a ton of paper, but we can still apply that if they're willing to come in and do a couple of things. So this was just said on television, and you like or hate the EPA. This is Lisa Jackson, she's the head. But I'm going to read this because this is sort of, I think, this is my last slide. If we would insist on a recycling rate in our country at 80, 85, 90%, we would do a bunch of things. Certainly we would have a cleaner environment. We would save a tremendous amount of water and energy. We would create millions of jobs because recycling in and of itself would become a supply chain in our country, a very domestic one. So although it sounds simple, when you see those recycling bins, when people start to talk about recycling, think of it as a homegrown jobs program, an environmental program, and an energy program, and a water program all in one. That is a thesis kind of unto itself, but it's true. I believe it. I don't think you can disagree with the market today and where we're at. Domestic jobs are in trouble, etc. So it is kind of a rah-rah cry to recycle more, but it's that sort of sums it up pretty well, just as big of a deal as it is. So that is the end of my chat, and yes, questions?
Yeah, let's open up the floor, please. Yes, in the back.
John, did you say 40 years you have left on your current airspace?
Yes.
Okay, how much airspace is that left?
I gotta take it.
Okay, just email me.
Yeah.
Do you have a question? Your phone has a question.
Did you have a question, Stacey? Kathy?
I have a question. We moved from Municipal Island where we had to separate everything, bundle all our papers, all the different glasses, the plastic, glossies, everything. I've always been curious, we put everything together in the recycling bin here. And I've heard all kinds of horrible things. What actually happens? They dump it in the back of the truck. Does it all go in the dump?
Well, you have single stream recycling in the city.
I'm in the city.
Right? It goes to the transfer station over on River Road, and it goes to a MRF up in Raleigh. So that's where it's separated.
And it's a cool tour. That's owned by a big behemoth company in South Carolina. They upgraded it recently. It's a Sunoco
The MRF place
company.
in Raleigh, you're
MRF,
saying?
yeah, and it's amazing. It uses different density airs and electric eyes, and it separates every single thing down to, and it bales it at the end. So you have stacks of baled newspaper, squashed plastic bottles, glass, depending on if they can use glass or not. I'm almost always use glass, but that's it. Literally gets down to, now they get a bowling ball every day or something that shouldn't belong, but it pops out. So there's a combination of manual pickers, and there's some really neat ones that use mentally handicapped people in Eastern North Carolina. Greenville's got a neat little MRF, and it's all folks there that wouldn't probably have jobs otherwise, and they're manually sorting it, and it pays for itself because there's companies around Greenville that use the small amount that they process, but it goes somewhere, yeah.
John, we have a regional MRF now in Onslow County,
Yes.
which is right down the street, that's operated by Sunoco now. Are you guys considering maybe sending us your commingle instead of hauling it to Raleigh?
We, the county, don't haul it to Raleigh. That's just the
Okay.
city. Because we have ours separated at the transfer stations. We've been talking to Sunoco.
Okay, cool.
They've like, that's one of the